look, the Trump kids have bought a ton of Bitcoin. They went to Saudi Arabia, raised a bunch of money. I think they used a lot of that money to buy Bitcoin.
Hmm.
Eric has said over and over again, it's going to $1 million a coin. I mean, I think that the bottom line is I think they're on our side. I mean, I think they're basically on our
Hmm.
side. Now, true hardcore Bitcoiners would say, well, I don't want the government to be on our side because the government's evil, and I don't even want them buying it because who wants to prop up the government? And I hear that, but in my view, is I'd rather, as bad as the U.S. government is, I do prefer it to the Chinese government and the Russian government. So, um,
Hmm.
to the degree that they are buying, that we do have the Bitcoin and Biden didn't sell it. That would be a good thing. And to the degree that we can pass the Lummis bill and start buying more, I think that would be a smart thing as well.
Yeah, and as long as I know you're the same as me in the sense of we come down the cypherpunk side of like, yeah, you don't want the government to get it, but at the end of the day, it just feels inevitable that the government, or big companies are going, if it's what you and I and other Bitcoiners espouse Bitcoin to be, then clearly other people with large amounts of money are going to see the same thing eventually and
Yeah,
want in on that too. That's just
absolutely.
inevitable. And you got to get the Trojan horse inside the gates in
Yeah.
order to start taking down the government piece by piece. So I don't know how you square the circle
No,
other
I
than
think
that.
that's right. I mean, I think
It's
that's right. I mean, ultimately, and it's, I know outsiders listening to Bitcoiners find this nauseating, but ultimately, everybody's going to have to buy this asset. Everybody. I mean, I don't care how much you hate it, don't believe in it, don't want to do it, think it's a joke, whatever. You're going to ultimately bend the knee, and so it's just a matter of when, because it's just going to keep on marching, and that's the
yeah.
hard thing I think for the average investor, the average citizen, the average person to get their arms around because it's new. It's a technology. It's a technology breakthrough that did not exist before. And so, I mean, when the Wright brothers flew, did somebody think you were going to be able to take a supersonic plane from New York to London in 3.5 hours?
Right.
I mean, no fucking way, right? I mean, it
Hmm.
just seems so absurd as to be ridiculous. It took 2 weeks on a steamship to get to London, but here we are, and so I think it's of the same kind of nature. It's just it's big, it's inevitable, it's going to keep going, and at every level, it'll become more and more obvious that this is something that should be done. And which, by the way, that also speaks to the issue. I mean, I find in my orange pilling efforts, probably, I mean, I've over the years I've encountered all kinds of resistance. One of the biggest, relatively intelligent ones was, well, the government's going to kill that, and all right. I explained they couldn't, but I get it. When the ETF came out, that narrative kind of died down a little bit. I think the narrative now that's kind of got a lot of people is, oh Christ, you bought it a lot cheaper. I can't pay $120,000 for this thing. I can't
Yeah,
afford a whole
it's a
one.
big
Well, you
one
don't
right
need a
now.
whole
Yeah.
one, right? And that's really, fixing on a number and looking in the rearview mirror. I mean, look, Max Kaiser bought it at $2. I mean, my first one was 300. So, um, and I wasn't sitting there. I mean, I wish I'd been Max, but I wasn't, and so be it. It's. I mean, when it's at 1 million, will you regret having bought it at 100,000? When it's at 5 million, will you regret having bought it at 100,000? I think no. And I'm a firm believer. I'm like Sailor. I mean, it's going up forever, Laura. And I don't know if the number is 7 or 13 or 15. I don't know exactly the slope of the curve. I mean, there are a lot of things that can happen policy wise, regarding the dollar that can make it go up faster or slower. I mean, if I mean, I think the power law is a pretty good descriptive model looking backwards, and I use it as my base case looking forward. But all these models are meant to be broken because this is something new and different. And at some point in time, this one will be broken to the upside. I mean, that's the Gresham's law, hyper Bitcoinization. I mean, when everyone realizes the dollar is toast, it's going to take the power law and just throw it in the trash and go up, really quickly, very, very, very aggressively. So that's coming, but that day might be 10 years from now. I don't know when that
Hmm.
day is, it could be,
Yep.
I don't think it
Absolutely.
could be any sooner than 3 or 4 years from now, but it's coming in my view.
And as our friend Jeff Booth always says, right? I mean, if it stays decentralized and secure, like you said this too, it's inevitable. Like it will
Yeah,
continue to eat every other asset. It's literally impossible not to do that if it stays decentralized and secure. And I think that's the importance of all of it.
I think that's right. I mean, I think the only, in my mind, the only remaining risk is the technical risk. And I think that 16 years of trial and error and everything else is beating it out of it. But then I mean, I listen to Mechanic and I hear some of the concerns about what Core is doing. And I mean, it's
Right.
interesting. I saw Saylor in Miami had a chance in a small group to ask him some questions, and we asked him. This was years ago now. It's probably 22 or 20. Anyway, and we said, hey, what are your major? Because he said the only concern I've got is that Core goes rogue, and that that human beings want to somehow mess with this thing, fix it, change it, do something stupid, that takes it away from the primary use that we're all
Yeah.
believing in. And that still kind of holds. And I think, but even that risk, I mean, I think if Core goes, I mean, everybody does vote on it. All the nodes vote on it, all the miners vote on it. So I don't know. I don't perceive that risk to be that large, but it's not zero. You know.
And the beauty of it is we have, what Ocean's doing. I just interviewed Ian Norton the other day, the chief legal counsel of Ocean, who's probably one of the smarter guys I've ever talked to in the
Absolutely.
Bitcoin space.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just
Absolutely.
obviously Bob Burnett and Mark and all those
Those
guys,
guys are doing the
Mechanic at
right
Ocean.
stuff. Yep.
Yeah, it's incredible. And custodying, running your node, custodying, mining with those guys. I mean, you solve a bunch of the problems that well, I shouldn't say the couple, one or two problems that Bitcoin has. They solve it. Like that, it's solved
No,
doing that.
right.
Running
That's
knots and just
exactly right.
decentralizing the system.
That's
It's
exactly right. In the same
so.
way that other people point to quantum as the risk, and if you talk to
Mhm.
Lynn or Preston about quantum, and what they say is, look, to the degree that arrives, it's a long way from arriving. I mean, a really, really long way from arriving. But if it were to arrive, then you would apply it to the SHA-256 algorithm and change it to be quantum proof or
Mhm.
quantum protected, and there'd be a hard fork, and everyone would move to that. So I think we've now got something that we can conclude is robust enough to kind of go on for a very, very, very long time. And so that's not
Agreed.
my concern. I mean, if you ask me my concerns, I mean, one concern I have is that, they'll do the big print, Bitcoin will go to, I don't know, call it 250, 300, 400, 500,000. And then everybody and their brother, and let's call that within the next 2 years. Okay.
Mhm.
And at that point, everybody and their brother will be coming into it, right? And
Yeah.
just like, and everyone will be talking about it, and everyone will say it's going to a million, and so people will be buying it. And people get too leveraged, too out over their skis, too this, too that, and then the 4 year cycle, which maybe now will become the 5.5 year cycle, will kick in, and will correct from 400 down to 200, and the last guy
Mhm.
that bought at 400 will feel like, oh my god, I got snookered. But
Yes.
the 200 will be a new base on which we'll launch to 2 million. And so
Yep.
it's just, I mean, the thing that cannot be ignored, and I think sometimes Bitcoiners don't do an adequate job of describing to a newbie who's looking to put some money into it, is to understand that the thing does draw down from time to time, and not in a small way. I mean, we've had multiple very large drawdowns. And so when people say to me, I want to get into it, how much should I put in? I ask the question, I say, well, if you put your money into it and it goes down 50%, are you going to think this is a bargain? I want to buy more, or I made a mistake, I need to sell it? Because if it's I made a mistake, I need to sell it, you bought too much to begin with. If it's this is a bargain, I want to buy more, you're thinking correctly, and your allocation was correct. And so because I mean, I started in 14. I've been through multiple drawdowns where I watched the amount of it I own go down a whole lot. And I just said, I don't care. In fact, I'm a buyer. I bought after 2017, and in 2018, I bought in 2019. I bought on the Sam Bankman-Fried dip. I mean, but by the way, before Sam Bankman-Fried, I paid 65 for it. But that
Mhm.
65 now looks
Yep.
pretty cheap compared to 120,
Yeah.
so it's all, and I try to use the example of Amazon. Bill Miller held it from the beginning. I mean, that thing went through. It was the same thing. It was a network effect. It was a big business. It was growing. It was driven by the internet, just like this. And it drew down 50% multiple times. But it always, the low on the drawdown was higher than the last low, and then the next high went on to be a newer high, so a new higher high. So you know I mean, I think it's just if you have a long-term perspective, and sadly so many people don't. I mean, and this is, I mean, a lot of people were in it really early. I mean, I know a lot of people who had hundreds of coins that they bought at $30, $100, $500. And it got to 3,000, they felt like they'd really scored, and they sold it.
Mhm.
They didn't
Yeah.
really understand what they owned. And so one has to really understand what it is, and take a long view. And when you do that, you realize it's just a compounding machine from now until the day you die.
The next unbelievable educational video here is going to blow your mind. Check that out here. However, if you want to take action on what you're learning, go check out our Bitcoin-only sponsors here below. Meanwhile, it's the first Bitcoin-denominated life insurance company absolutely flipping the game on its head. Then you have Crowd Health. Instead of the garbage healthcare fiat system that we use, get your funding of bills through a network of Bitcoiners, like-minded people, or foundation, the only hardware wallets made in the USA, open source, privacy, sovereignty. Go check that out below.